It's time now to review newspaper headlines from across Nigeria, and as ever, we begin with the front page of This Day. Now, if we take a look at the front page of This Day today, it does have a whole plethora of stories. Now, its lead story is, of course, President Tinubu bringing in new service chiefs to strengthen Nigeria's security architecture and deepen professionalism. So we see these new security chiefs along the bottom there. So going from left to right of your screen, we see Chief of Defence Staff Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede. Then next to him, we have Chief of Army Staff Major General Shaibu. Then we have Chief of Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal AVM SK Aneke. And then we have the Chief of Naval Staff, Rear Admiral I. Abbas. Now, for these gentlemen, of course, we were already familiar with Olufemi Oluyede coming in already, but it just seems as though this current administration is, as the headline would lead us to believe, putting a lot of effort into strengthening Nigeria's security architecture and deepening professionalism, which I think is quite interesting because it does show that the president is, on the one hand, retaining his Chief of Defence Intelligence in this despite this major shakeup. But clearly it shows that there is a level of expectation of professionalism coming from the president to these new service chiefs. Now, we do know that the presidency has said that the appointment of these new service chiefs is routine. Governors, however, have pledged to share intelligence with DSS as well as other agencies. And experts have harped in on synergy and improved troop welfare. So in addition to that, just underneath This Day masthead, we do have tributes pouring in as Professor Benedict Oke-Orama has stepped down as Afreximbank president. Now, his successor, Olombi, has pledged to build on a legacy of innovation and unity. And if anyone has spent even a little bit of time at Afreximbank under the leadership of President Orama, you will know that innovation, unity across the African continent, and indeed Black diaspora has been at the forefront of his tenure at the lead of the Africa Export-Import Bank. So huge congratulations to Professor Benedict Orama, and we look forward to who comes in after him and what his leadership, the leadership of Olombi, will look like. We know Bosun was in Egypt for the farewell events, and it was clearly a sight to behold. To the top of This Day, we have finally Nigeria has exited FATF, which is the Financial Action Task Force. It's a global watch list which lists financial crime, and Nigeria has come off that global financial crime watch list. And clearly this is something that is marking a major step forward in the nation's fight against money laundering and illicit financial flows. We do know that President Tinubu earlier on in the week welcomed the country's delisting from FATF as their grey list, just as he pledged to continue reforms that would further sanitize the financial sector in furtherance of his policies there. And just in addition to that, we do have Olukoyede saying that the EFCC deploying recovered loot in critical social programs. So all in the same topic there. And before we leave This Day, there is another story across the bottom that has Peter Obi making a case for port decentralization. He is citing the economic benefits of doing so. This is, of course, another example of how he sees Nigeria and how he thinks the country should be moving towards should he emerge as president. So that is This Day. I wonder if we have the time to discuss any of these stories or whether we'll move on to another paper. What do you think, Kachi?
I mean, of course, we can definitely discuss some of the stories, especially from the perspective of the service chiefs. Mm-hmm. I think this is definitely one development that is absolutely necessary, absolutely welcome. And not to say that, we can preempt what the, results of the work that they are going to do will be. But I think that there's just one thing Nigerians want at this point in time, and that is peace and security. If we can just take a look at the headline of This Day newspaper once again, we can also point out that if you watched that live broadcast where, the now former president of Afreximbank, Benedict Orama, was receiving tributes, I think for me what really stood out was listening to past presidents also speak on their relationship and their legacy, and just how his entire regime has really bolstered confidence and, across all sectors as well. And the importance of keeping up with that legacy. It was just an absolutely beautiful event just to take a look at in Cairo. I think Afreximbank has really set itself apart as not just your as not just another African bank, but as a bank that really cares and is interested in the welfare and development of Africa as a whole. Of course, as a country, we have greatly benefited from that support, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that will continue, not just within Nigeria, where I'm obviously living in, but in other parts of Africa as well. I think there's so much untapped resource that Afreximbank is very, very keen on exploring, whether it's within the creative economy, it's within health, it's tech, it's AI. They have set up so much resource that can really harness all of these potentials. So I was really impressed to see that, and wishing the successor, of course, George Olombo, all the best. And of course, the story on Nigeria exiting the Financial Action Task Force Global Watch List. This is such a big deal because it shows that we're really, really pushing our fight against money laundering and illicit financial flows. The NFIU boss, Edun, Fagbemi, Tinubu, all welcome our delisting from that list and reiterate our commitment to financial transparency. This takes me back to that raid that happened when the popular social media, what do we call him now? Hush puppy. Was he an influencer?
What do we call hush puppy? Yeah, perhaps a social media personality.
Social media personality takes me back to that raid in Dubai and how it was carried out and how it was such a blow to Nigeria. There was all the conversation about, the reflection on how this is a reflection on us and who we are. So to see this is definitely, one step in the right direction to say that we are not the criminals that, the world will love us to be. We are actually not. We aren't. But we have Adesoa in the Abuja studio right now. Adesoa, we're just going through some of the headlines on this day newspaper. And is there anyone that particularly stands out for you today?
Is the service chiefs shake-up, and of course some people are saying, was there a coup plot? Was there not a coup plot? Is this a result of the phantom coup that we're unsure about, as we've seen some denials come out, but we've also seen a lot of conversation about coup plotters around the 1st of October who are planning a coup for the 25th of October. This is very important security conversations that we're not sure is where it's going, but what we do know is that there has been a shake-up with our security chiefs. Now, these security chiefs were led by the Chief of Defense Staff, Musa, who was appointed in June of 2023 by President Tinubu, along with the other head service chiefs that have been removed. Very interestingly there, the Chief of Naval Intelligence was not removed, but for the most part, we've seen a serious shake-up when it comes to our service chiefs. Now, of course, they are supposed to serve for 2 years, even though, as we've seen under Buhari and previously, sometimes they do extend that service period. I think something for me that will be interesting is if this new set led by Oluyede, if we see a significant impact when it comes to our fight against Boko Haram and ISWAP and this fractionalization of terror groups and proliferation of terror in the country. But also what we're going to see with these promotions is that we're going to see mandatory retirements when it comes to our military and our armed services. And when we think about these mandatory retirements, I do think that it might be a system we must consider as Nigerians when we pour a lot of money into training our service chiefs, into investing in our service men as they grow up, go up the system. And then we now have mandatory retirements because of certain people getting promoted. I think we must think about the long-term effects on our security infrastructure of the retirements that we're going to see in the upcoming days. But I do think that this issue of service chiefs, of the sanctity of democracy in Nigeria and of this fight against terrorism and banditry is definitely a topic that we're going to focus on as in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. I think we can take a look at another newspaper. It's the Saturday Punch today. And the main story still being what you've just spoken about, Adesoa, why Tinubu sacked the service chiefs. That's according to the presidency. You can find that story on page 4. Coup rumors continue to linger despite the official denial. Of course, I do not expect to see an admittance of this incident because that will mean that there was a major security breach. But of course, there are still mixed reactions trailing the military shake-up, ADC demanding answers. But, the Punch newspaper today takes a look at different types of stories. We know that they also have that conversation on Nigeria exiting the global money laundering watch list. Now, I struggle to find what else to talk about here because there's a lot of gossip.
Yes.
But I will say that over on page 32, if you remember, on social media, there was a viral video of a pastor who was talking about the killing of Christians. And he is in page 32 of The Punch, where he's talking about his life being in danger over his viral video. That takes me back to that conversation of the genocide against Christians being widely denied. And he came out to speak up to say that that is untrue, that there's a lot of problems, Christians are being killed. And he's now crying out to say that his life is in danger over that video.